Patricia Arquette has won an Oscar, an Emmy, 2 Golden Globes, and a career award here at the International TV Festival in Monaco. But it's her work in 2 of this year's most buzzed about TV shows that's got everyone saying her best work could still be ahead of her.
This is the state's case against Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
She's got paraplegia, epilepsy, heart murmur, and she's allergic to sugar. Everything I do for her.
My mom is my best friend. All she wants to do is keep me safe.
Gypsy!
Patricia Arquette, hello.
Hello.
In your new series, The Act, you play a mother who fakes her daughter's serious illnesses, but to extremes, confining her to a wheelchair, subjecting her to medication that's unnecessary for years. It is based on a real-life story. Did you know about this case before you signed on? Had you heard about it in the news?
I actually hadn't heard about this specific case. I'd always been interested, but in Munchausen by proxy, because, you know, it's the opposite of everything that nature makes you feel as a mother. You know, you want to protect your kids from any pain in the world. So I was always interested in that. What would make someone have that, or how would it display itself, or what could bring that about? But my kids knew about this case. So when I told them I was thinking of doing this, they were like, no, don't play that lady, no.
And you did.
Yeah, I was like, you guys, come on, it's pretend.
It is pretend, but what's so fascinating about it is it does really push to extremes this dynamic that a lot of women see with their own mothers, the rebellion of the daughter, the controlling mother, of course, again, to an extreme. But was that in any way hard to kind of shake off when you went home to your own daughter who's a teenager?
Well, it was just, I felt very weird in doing the scenes. I was always apologizing to Joey, just even to be kind of reenacting a version of this just felt so disturbing.
I'm just gonna ask you a few questions, all right? Can you read?
Do you love me?
So in addition to The Act, you also did another recent limited series for TV that's getting a lot of buzz, won a lot of awards, including a recent Golden Globe, Escape at Dannemora. That also is based on another true story. What's interesting about that character is you play Tilly, who's a prison worker, not traditionally attractive, but very sexual. Was part of that what intrigued you about her?
Yeah, I did follow that story as it was breaking. So, you know, at the beginning it was like, these prisoners have escaped from prison. Oh, that's so frightening. Oh my goodness, these guys are murderers, they're escaped. Then all of a sudden there was this picture of this woman who looked completely non-congruous. And they were like, this woman, you know, may have information about this. And I was like, that's weird. Then the next day it was like, she may have had an affair with one of these men. Then it was the next day, she may have had an affair with both of these men. I'm like, who is this lady? What is going on? What is this story? This is really a wild story. So I was fascinated by that case.
Did you have sex with these 2 inmates?
No.
I just figured you're friends with my friend. That makes us friends.
What's going on with you and Tilly?
Maybe we can arrange a get-together soon.
I'm down there every night. I'm cutting the pipe. I'm doing the work, and all you do is sleep.
Nobody knows about a marriage except the people in the marriage, and sometimes even they don't know.
What's it like as an actress? Is it liberating in some way to play someone who's not so Hollywood attractive?
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, there's a risk to doing that there's a real risk in this business. And there certainly were business people who were like, you can't do that, you know?
Why?
You won't work.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, well, they're not wrong. That's kind of been the way it's been for most people. But I definitely wanted to start having this question. Who's allowed to be sexual? What age do you have to be? What body type are you allowed to be in this world to be a sexually liberated person? Tilly is much more comfortable with herself than I've ever been. So it was interesting to play her also in that way.
The Act, Escape at Dannemora. In between those 2, around the same time, you shot a comedy, Otherhood, that's coming out soon on Netflix, directed by Cindy Shupak, who came from Sex and the City, an executive producer and a writer. Was that a nice break for you, coming from the intensity of those other 2?
Yes. When I first started Otherhood, you know, I definitely wanted to kind of get away from the dark depression of Tilly in that world. Then during that, I got the act. So I was like, uh-oh, here I go again. But it was really nice to do a comedy, work with these women and laugh a lot.
Today, it's very commonplace to see film actors with great careers moving into TV, but you were really in the first wave, going way back to your show Medium. You won the Best Actress Emmy in 2005, but back then when you started thinking about doing that show, did anyone say to you, again, don't do it?
Yes, people said to me, no, you won't work in movies anymore, and I just said, you know, I don't believe in this concept that we can only do good work in movies and not on television. I also kind of saw the demise coming of film in theaters. People just don't go to the movies anymore, and that was already beginning to be the case. Now we're in this unfortunate place where it's either mega, giant tent movies or micro-budget movies. There's no more, you know, mid-sized budget movies.
So you, of course, have had such an incredible film career. You won an Oscar for your role in Boyhood in 2015. Director Richard Linklater's movie, of course, it was shot over 12 years. And during your Oscar speech, you spoke about gender inequality, equal pay for women. When you were preparing that speech, were you worried at all about being so political in that moment of your career?
Yeah, I was, because there's an unspoken thing that you shouldn't be political, and definitely seen other actors receive backlash and even impact their careers for being political. But I also realized that I was winning this award for playing this part of this single mom who was the primary breadwinner and also caretaker for these kids, and how different her life would have been if she'd been paid her full dollar, and how different her kids' life would have been. I mean, she was in this bad relationship at one point, and I think she may have overlooked some danger signs and stayed a little longer than she should have because she was in an economically disadvantaged position.
And it's a cause that you still obviously hold very dear to your heart, because you testified to the Congress in the US to push for the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment, which still isn't ratified today. Is it hard for you living in the States today under Donald Trump?
Yes, it seems like everything's rolling back. Civil rights, you know, for women, for LGBT people, for trans Americans. And also civil rights, you know, different states are putting into place that they can prosecute people who are just demonstrating peacefully. So it's a pretty terrifying time.
Do you think TV has helped women in the industry much more than film?
Television has always been better for women in a way. You had Cagney and Lacey, you had Mary Tyler Moore, Carol Burnett. We've had strong, Lucille Ball, had strong women in television for a long time. But we have so many networks now, there's a lot more content being made, which is very good for women, I think. And also having this conversation about inclusivity and women and their stories and their talents, having a chance, I think it's all coming together in a good way for everybody.
It's true, we do see a lot more diversity on television in regard to gender, in regard to sexual orientation. I still think it's fascinating that there does seem to be this golden idea of what a woman should look like in Hollywood. Do you feel that's still true today? Do you feel that pressure at all?
I think that's true today, and I still don't think we have enough representation of women of color, or men of color really, in television in diverse roles. I still think there's a subconscious bias and limiting factor there. Yeah, I think we have certain concepts of beauty in our time. And it's not that I'm angry about beauty or don't recognize it myself, this idealized beauty, but I definitely think there's space for all different types of people, and that the different phases in life are all kind of beautiful.
We were talking about your career, the awards that you've won, Oscar and Emmy, 2 Golden Globes. I want to ask you about the very beginning of your career, what you remember about that time and how you knew this was what you wanted to do.
Well, really, I wasn't sure. I did want to act, but I also wanted to be a midwife, but I knew I was more terrified of being an actor, and I really wanted to be a brave person, so I thought, I'm going to do a social experiment on myself where I give myself a year to fail every day. And I did that. But I started getting work. So I was like surprised, actually. I think a lot of times we stop ourselves for fear of failure.
Your family, of course, has a lot of artists in it, actors as well. Your sister Rosanna had sort of paved the way for you. Did she give you any words of wisdom or advice at the beginning of your career?
She was just very supportive. She paid for my acting class, and she said, there's always room for another rose in the garden.
It's lovely. You've played so many eccentric characters over your career, True Romance, Ed Wood, or Lost Highway. Do you find that people, when they meet you for the first time, they expect you're going to be this kind of quirky, offbeat person?
Yes, I mean, I used to more, I think, than I don't feel that so much now. When I was younger, I definitely did, and I felt like a lot of the interviews that I gave were kind of angled towards that, or written in that kind of a voice that I didn't think was a really fair reflection of myself.
Do you feel like there's things in your career that you'd still like to accomplish, or do you feel like you've hit the summer?
I've been working on writing a memoir, so I'm working on that. That's a terrifying thing. And then what else? Maybe directing something very soon.
Patricia Arquette, thank you so much. It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you. Great talking
Thanks
to you.
to you for watching. We'll see you soon on France 24.